Happy 41st birthday, Titus O'Neil, and happy Rusev Day, Hayden. You are listening to Over the Top Rope, as always, exclusively on the Win Column Sports Network. I'm your host, Spencer Love. Joining me, as always, is my co-host, Hayden Love. Hayden, say hello.
Happy birthday, Titus.
I couldn't be happier for him. He really needs a win after...
Make it a win.
He needs to make it a win after the events of Friday. That will go down in infamy as his greatest moment.
Absolutely.
Is that fall. He won't be remembered. And it sort of sucks to say because the guy does a lot of great charity work. But, this is officially overtaken. Him kissing his son on the lips is the thing I will remember Titus O'Neil for most.
He's got a storied career.
A storied career.
At this point.
A highlight reel of just great clips. Like that fall in NXT where he tripped over the mat. That was outstanding, too.
I think I just saw a pigeon die outside your window.
Good. I hate pigeons.
Something fell from the sky.
Well,
okay, but that's neither here nor there.
We're not here to talk about pigeons. We are here to talk about wrestling, Hayden. And on today's episode of Over the Top Rope, we're going to talk a little bit about the greatest Royal Rumble. I can't say it was the greatest Royal Rumble. I wouldn't even say it's probably in the top half of Royal Rumbles.
No.
But the event was the greatest Royal Rumble.
I was banking on an Alberto Del Rio return. But we'll talk about that later.
We'll talk about that in a bit. We're also actually going to talk about the women's evolution or revolution or whatever they're coining it nowadays after their trip to Saudi Arabia, which is a little bit of what we're going to speak about, but we're going to sort of look more so towards the future and what is coming for the women and where the next step in the evolution is going to go. But Hayden, first things first. What are your overall thoughts on Friday's greatest Royal Rumble?
The more I think about it, the worse it gets.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty much it summed up. I mean, it was a great card. It was better than WrestleMania. But...
you think it had a better card than WrestleMania?
On paper.
I would disagree.
In my mind.
I would 100% disagree.
You got Lesnar Reigns in a steel cage. Don't tell me that's not an instant upgrade from last...
It's an upgrade, match. Don't get me wrong, but I 100% cared less about this going in. And now I could care about it even less. Roman Reigns winning the title at this point is pointless.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's absolutely useless to give him the title now. I think they're finally ready to establish Braun Strowman as the guy after his win on Friday.
I think they've moved on. You think about proper times to put that belt on Roman Reigns, there was never one.
No. But even if there was never a proper time to put the belt on him, I feel like he had to win here. Even if they're just doing this to swerve the fans or whatever the long-term plan is here, I don't see how it can involve Roman Reigns now. Even with this whole controversial finish, after he fell through the cage or speared Lesnar through the cage and his feet hit the ground first. Because I think that's where they're going to go with that, and I think that's just flat out stupid.
Yeah.
I would hate it.
They bring it up tomorrow night?
I'm sure they will. There's no way that they can't have that situation.
He looks like he knocked himself out, too. He nailed his head on the ground.
Oh, he took a tough bump, and I was very happy to see Hayden English fire back at people online because I'm a big Hayden English fan. But Hayden English is also all right after taking just a nasty-looking tombstone.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess every tombstone looks nasty. There's no possible way to make your neck hitting the ground or your head hitting the ground look fun.
No.
I understand why WWE would ban pile driver. Just on a looks-based thing. I don't know how safe it actually is. I've never wrestled. Nor should I ever wrestle. I would be really, really bad at it. I'm an uncoordinated individual, Hayden.
Hey, you never know till you try.
True.
Zach Gowen has one leg. He's still a pretty good wrestler.
That guy's an athlete, though. He could kick my ass.
Everybody's an athlete.
100% he could kick my ass. But that's neither here nor there. I think that they finally have decided that there's, like you said, not a proper time to crown Roman Reigns, and you're not ever going to get the reaction for him that you would ever hope for.
He's getting booed in Saudi Arabia.
As one of the only guys who got any sort of reaction. Mm-hmm. That's the thing, is that crowd wasn't a very hot crowd by any means.
No.
But he was one of the only guys, other than sort of the Triple H or the Undertaker or Cena or the Legends, that got a reaction, and it wasn't overwhelmingly positive.
Even Angle didn't get much of a reaction.
No, he didn't. And I don't
Bryan, know. Huge pop for Mark Henry.
Much bigger than I expected. What a time to be alive.
Hey, he's a legend in those. He's the world's strongest man.
He's just a legend, period. And I stand by my decision to put him on my top 10 theme songs of all time.
Mm-hmm. I'm happy he got a run with the world title.
Me too. I was also very, very happy that his son wore the salmon jacket to his Hall of Fame induction.
I was hoping he would, but in retrospect, it would have been overkill.
Well, and if he had worn it and not power slammed somebody, I would have been disappointed.
Did you watch the Hall of Fame ceremony?
Just the highlights.
Yeah.
I don't generally watch a lot of the Hall of Fame.
No.
Purely for the fact that I watch a lot of wrestling as is, and I don't think I could take another night away from my girlfriend to watch wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
I think she would probably kill me by this point. So, no, I did not watch the Hall of Fame this year.
No, if you say so. Pull the Dylan Miley. For what you like.
I can't do that.
I watched the whole Hall of Fame last year, WrestleMania 33.
Yeah.
And it was like 4.5, 5 hours, man.
It's
it
a
was
very
crazy.
long show. That's the thing, is I feel I would watch, and don't get me wrong, I feel like if these legends are getting put in the Hall of Fame, they've got every right to talk as long as they want to.
Yeah.
But I just can't. If it was a 2-hour show, I probably could squeeze that in.
But you just
But
don't give enough of a shit.
Well,
Let's be honest here.
Yeah, I can't watch a 5-hour show of speeches.
Hillbilly Jim was an hour.
Yeah.
Crazy. Could you imagine that? Just like half of the people in the audience had cleared out by the time Goldberg got inducted.
Mm-hmm. Which you
pretty
feel
sad.
bad. Which I was just gonna say, you feel bad for the inductees at that point if people are leaving your speech.
Because
But,
it wasn't like 5 hours.
yeah. But
Dolph Ziggler was drunk as hell on the red carpet.
good for him. I was pretty actually, you know what, to go back to the Rumble, I was pretty impressed with his performance. I sort of like, he seems like he's got a little more fire in him since this pairing with McIntyre.
Speaking of, I was surprised he didn't show up.
I was surprised that, yeah, I was very, very surprised he didn't show up. Who else wasn't there? 41, I think the stat was 41 of the 50 who were in the Greatest Royal Rumble weren't on the card at WrestleMania.
Like, I was surprised there weren't more people pulling double duty. Like, Cena wasn't in it, Triple H wasn't in it, Rollins, Reigns and Lesnar, you understand.
Yeah. I don't know.
Like,
I didn't
Tucker
think
Knight, man.
I didn't think it was a very good event. I am happy though to say that Braun Strowman won. Although that
He was
title,
the right choice.
he was the right choice. Him or Bryan, I think, were the only two real choices. Daniel Bryan is, it has to be said every time he's brought up that guy, it is so nice to see him back in a wrestling ring. Did you see that man's chest?
Hey, he's going back to a full-time schedule soon, too.
He's going back to house shows.
Yeah, that's what I'm
incredible.
saying.
I'm so very, very excited. And it
Oh,
is,
Jesus. Next time SmackDown comes to Edmonton,
yeah.
it's going to be killer.
Oh, it's going to be fantastic.
Man.
Daniel Bryan back on the house show circuit is going to bump ticket sales immensely, I would sort of guess.
Hey, fingers crossed, same thing doesn't happen to him that happened with Paige.
Knock on wood. But,
I think you and I had that conversation, though.
yep. But, you know, that's a risk with anybody. But that's not what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about how damn good. He looked great.
Mhm.
All 74 minutes, 73, 74 minutes that he was in the ring.
He went 1 hour, 12 minutes.
The guy's a machine. He's been wrestling
Something.
again. I don't know how much training you can do for wrestling if you're not allowed to be in the ring.
I think
know
he
that
just
he
kept
did-
himself in shape.
Oh yeah,
generally.
the guy is in great shape. He's always lived a very clean lifestyle. He's kept himself in phenomenal shape, but like to wrestle 72 minutes by
Yeah.
what you're saying
I guess so.
is insane.
It's in
And
that
those
ballpark.
chops, like his, I have to laugh every time Michael Cole says something like his chest looks like ground beef because it's just a stupid sentence.
Yeah.
But his chest looked like ground beef. It was horrible.
Yeah, if you want to put it that way.
But to go back to Strowman here for, I guess, a continued conversation, is that championship going to be defended?
I don't know.
Because the whole time I
Remains
thought,
to be seen.
I don't know.
Maybe
how-
they have these partnerships with a bunch of other countries. I mean, China.
like the UK championship.
Maybe. That'd be
Braun
interesting. I hadn't
Strowman
thought
on the
of
indie
that.
scene.
Braun Strowman just lives in Saudi Arabia now. Not featured on Raw. He just becomes a Saudi Arabian superstar.
Saudi correspondent Braun Strowman defending the championship.
Well, what we were talking earlier about Triple H's conference call, or it was a press conference. I didn't read too much into it, but they were talking about setting up a global feeder system of NXTs. It's
I
like a
love it.
Chinese NXT, a European NXT.
Well,
I
and
think that would
hopefully-
include the UK.
I think that would be a great way to build WWE's product because, like, let's face it, like we said, the crowd wasn't phenomenal in Saudi Arabia. And a lot of that may just be, I don't know how much wrestling is actually part of the culture there. I don't know how many people, I don't know sort of the background of that. But I think if you were to, like you say, Triple H sets up a feeder system in Saudi Arabia, he sets up a feeder system in China, he sets up these sort of feeder systems, and give them some people to genuinely invest in. I think that's half the reason that NXT and the Performance Center has worked so well, is because you get a consistent crowd behind consistent superstars, rather than like Raw or SmackDown is a traveling show, where people's reactions, yeah, you're going to get the general same reaction for a guy like Finn Balor or Braun Strowman, but people's reactions can fluctuate. So if you've got an NXT in Saudi Arabia where you have a Saudi crowd consistently going to see the same Saudi superstars, it may take a while to see that investment, but you think next year they run a Greatest Royal Rumble too. Now these guys have superstars that they've watched for a year develop in this feeder system. Maybe those are the guys who get the bigger reactions at these sort of shows.
If that is the plan, and I think it is the plan, I would kill to see a Chinese NXT. I think that would be crazy.
I absolutely think so too.
Or even just like an Asian-centric NXT, because you're going to have an Indian NXT for sure. Mm-hmm. Or if you, like, I don't even know if they'll be called NXTs, but like an Indian feeder system.
Mm-hmm. A UK feeder system, there's got to be.
Would they group the UK in with Europe, do you think? Or do you think they would be two separate?
No, I think it'd be UK because they've got, I think they would do the UK Championship as its own thing.
Yeah, and it's its own style of wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
Personality.
But from what I heard, and I did only really see one tweet, so the validity of this is to be proven, but I did see a tweet suggesting that there could be another event in Saudi Arabia announced for November.
Yeah, I saw that too. The greatest Survivor Series.
The greatest Survivor Series.
I hope they throw like a Great Balls of Fire pay-per-view.
The greatest Great Balls of Fire.
Yeah.
The greatest in your house.
The greatest Balls of Fire.
Outside of the main event, what were your thoughts? What was your match of the night? What were your disappointments? What are your general thoughts on the not so greatest Royal Rumble?
Well, I didn't catch Cena Triple H or the Cruiserweight title.
I didn't watch the Cruiserweight title. Cena Triple H was good. Yeah. I enjoyed it. It always bugs me when they go to a submission-related match with John Cena near the end because I don't buy the STF. But that's about the biggest thing.
What was Trips using? The crossface?
Yeah, the crossface.
Yeah.
But it...
Rest in peace, Chris.
I just hate the STF.
Yeah, it's not particularly
But it was a good match. I didn't watch the Cruiserweights. I didn't watch the ladder match, unfortunately, which I heard was the best match on the card.
I think that would be my pick for match of the night. Because Usos Bludgeon Brothers was kind of garbage.
They just don't seem like they've got a ton of chemistry, which is a little disappointing.
I was surprised the Usos didn't move to Raw.
I was very surprised they didn't move to Raw.
Maybe they'll go after SummerSlam or something.
I hope they try and do more consistent shakeups. Maybe not make them as big of things, but you can do sort of trades here and there.
Well, yeah, exactly. That's exactly it. Just like
along
trades.
Those lines.
Like you just get like 3 trades you can pull off. No, I'd cap it at 2 trades per year. Mm-hmm. 2 straight trades. Tag teams count as 1 trade. Because then you can just elect not to use them if the rosters are stacked.
Yeah.
Like SmackDown is stacked.
Their tag team division's fantastic. And it's going to be nice that...
The entirety of it's crazy.
It's going to be nice to see another team come up and challenge the Bludgeon Brothers. I'm very happy that Rollins retained. I thought it would have been a little counterproductive to flip the titles. Because if Rollins hadn't retained...
Look at the champions of WWE right now. Sorry to cut you off, but you got AJ Styles, Brock Lesnar, Seth Rollins, Jeff Hardy, Charlotte Flair. Who's the SmackDown Women's Champion?
Charlotte Flair. Nia Jax is Women's Champion.
Carmella is SmackDown.
Right.
I forgot.
Carmella. Actually, I feel pretty bad about that one. I'm sorry, Carmella.
Yeah, but where were you going with Rollins? I'm sorry that I cut you off.
I'm really happy. No, yeah, no problem. I'm very happy he retained. I think the IC Championship has done a phenomenal... Like, The Miz did revitalize that championship, and I think it needs continued longer runs to stay relevant, and especially with guys like... I love Rollins with the championship. I think he's a phenomenal champion, whether it's like... I loved his world title run. Yeah. I thought his character was fantastic. I thought the booking around it, J&J Security was never my favorite thing.
Oh, you remember when Lesnar ripped the door off and nailed somebody in the crowd?
Oh, man.
Did you hear about that?
Yes, I did.
Cut it off with an axe. Could you imagine that, getting hit with a car door thrown by Brock Lesnar?
That's a story you tell your kids about.
You read my mind. Yeah.
That guy's a monster.
Shit. I couldn't imagine that.
I can't wait for that championship to be off of him, though.
Oh, I love Lesnar. I hope he sticks around. At this point, it's got to be
Strowman. Sticks around. I don't disagree that he's an attraction, but do disagree with the notion that he's a champion, or an attraction that needs to be a champion.
Yeah, I agree with that, especially at this point.
I think at this point it is spite against CM Punk. He will break the record. There's no way he's going to lose the title in the next month and a half.
Where would you lose it anyways?
Backlash.
Yeah. No, I agree. It's gonna be Strowman.
I think it has to be Strowman. It can't be Lashley for me right now. I know it's only been 3 weeks, but like Lashley to me is he's a hell of an athlete, but there's a lot of athletes in WWE that I personally don't like very much.
Oh Christ, do you want to talk about bad performances in the Royal Rumble? My God. Did you see him drop Cass on his head?
It wasn't his greatest performance.
Oh, it was a horrendous performance.
I have no reason right now to care about Bobby Lashley being back.
No.
None.
Has he said a single word?
He hasn't said a word. It's very frustrating to me that he came back for 1 week. He did that dumb suplex to Elias, and now he's been in 2 tag team matches, not even got the winning pinfall in them, and hasn't said a word. Maybe this will all change once he does say a word, or once I have a reason for him to be here, or once there is a feud for him. Because like I said, he's a terrific athlete. That much is already obvious.
Oh, man. McIntyre Lashley would be pretty cool.
McIntyre's the man.
Yeah.
McIntyre should be WWE champion within the year.
It's McIntyre.
Drew, us McIntyre. He's the man. I'm so happy he's back. I am very excited to see where this Dolph Ziggler pairing goes. If it wasn't for, if it wasn't for Matt Hardy and Bray Wyatt, I think they'd probably be my favorite part of Raw right now. But I cannot tell you how happy I am that they are Raw Tag Team Champions. It is going to be so cool to watch them hold the titles. Even more so than when, it's kind of funny. I loved in their post-event interview that Matt and Jeff did. I love how Matt said every April I seem to come by one of these talking about the Raw Tag Team Championships. It's like, well, you're not wrong. It's going to be very, very cool to see where they go with this pairing.
I hope it's a long run.
I also hope it's a long run. I hope they stick through SummerSlam, to be quite honest with you. I could see them... I want to see a good run out of them. I don't want to see this be another 2 months and Wyatt turns or something along those lines. The long-term goal of this, let's be honest here, just to sidetrack, the long-term goal of this Hardy-Wyatt pairing has to be to elevate Bray Wyatt.
Does that make Bray Wyatt the second man to hold the Raw and SmackDown Tag Team titles? Jason Jordan was the first.
I think you're right. I think you're right.
Can't think of anybody else at this point.
No.
Barr's probably going to be number 3 and 4.
Yep. But yeah, I think you're completely right on that one.
Damn. Sweet. Okay,
I love Bray Wyatt. I'm very happy that this has sort of worked out this well for him.
It has worked out well.
All of his last feuds prior to this had sort of ended with a fizzle rather than a bang. Finn Balor, he got the mumps when he was supposed to have his sister Abigail versus the Halloween Demon match. The feud before that was the Randy Orton feud. That wasn't a very good feud by the end of it.
Was that right before that?
I think so. Because remember, he came over to Raw and started doing those vignettes and interrupting Balor's matches.
Yeah, because he never got his rematch for the WWE title. He just came right over. That's when Randy went to Jinder Mahal.
And Roman Reigns is very likely going to get a third shot at the title for losing it twice.
I just wonder
where
does the guy go from here? Honestly. He's not going to be the guy. They've been pushing him for 5 years.
My solution is always just throw out a heel turn like Oprah throws out big gives. You get a heel turn, and you get what do you do with him from this point?
I don't know, man.
Are they setting him up for like a John Cena losing streak?
I said it like
Has
3
Roman
years
lost
ago.
his smile?
He just leaves for a few years.
Yeah, I mean, outside of leaving for a few years or turning heel, what does Roman's character do? It's not even like they set him up for another feud outside of Samoa Joe, but after Backlash, that's got to be blown off. Where does Roman Reigns go from here?
I've been saying for like 2 years that he's the next Lex Luger.
And that's looking more and more likely,
Yeah.
which is it sucks to say, especially since I think he's a much better overall wrestler than Luger was.
Yeah, I haven't watched very many Lex Luger matches though. I've never gone out of my way. I've just seen him body
No
slam.
one really has, but when was the last time, sorry to interrupt, but when was the last time that Roman Reigns had a bad match? Because they weren't bad matches these last couple against Lesnar's. They were just so anticlimactic.
Nah.
And that
WrestleMania
ruins
was
a lot
pretty
of a
bad.
match.
WrestleMania was pretty bad. Admit it. I see it on your face.
You know what? And even if we're to say, fine, like let's concede that one to you, outside of that one. Because I think we can call that one an aberration. And you know what? Even then, Lesnar's last good match was Styles.
Yep. That was recent.
You know, a lot of his matches are bad.
Nope.
Can't really expect a great match from Brock Lesnar. I go into a
Oh,
Brock
you
Lesnar
absolutely
match now.
can. He's one of the best wrestlers on the planet.
Yeah, but going into a match now, you can't expect it to be a barn burner anymore.
No.
All of his last singles matches outside of Styles, and I guess Goldberg at Mania before that.
Joe was okay.
No.
It was okay.
I disagree.
Okay. You can agree to disagree.
That was bad. I think that, I guess Roman, we'll give Roman at WrestleMania, was bad. Not putting the title on Strowman was the worst idea WWE had last year.
Yeah. Even just putting him in a match with Lesnar was a horrible idea.
I think it was a great idea. For years. It was a great idea if you were going to give him the championship.
I think that's who they're going to give it to.
I hope so. But I think coming out of the Greatest Royal Rumble, the sad thing is the big news isn't really even just that it was a very mediocre event. I think the most disappointing part coming out of the Greatest Royal Rumble is the situation around the apology from the Saudi government for showing Carmella and Sasha Banks and all of them in that commercial. Now, I'm just going to come right out and say it. We are not a show that discusses politics. We are not going to do that. But for me, it is a very, very disappointing step that this happens after their event when the WWE, the first event, when WWE has been pushing the women's evolution. Now, people come, and rightfully so, they talk about, New Japan doesn't feature a women's promotion or women's wrestling or anything of that sort. But they're also not going out of their way to promote the way they treat their women. And I think going forward, all I've got to say on it, because coming up after our short little break here, we're going to talk about where the women's evolution is going forward, because I do still think that the future is bright for the women in WWE. I just think that this is a disappointing look for World Wrestling Entertainment coming out of the very first event in Saudi Arabia to have happened. But when we come back, Hayden, like I said, we're going to talk a little bit about the women's evolution, revolution, whatever you want to call it at this point, where it's going looking forward and what the next year holds for the ladies in WWE, only on Over the Top Rope, part of the Win Column Sports Network. Welcome back to Over the Top Rope, part of the Win Column Sports Network. It's us. It's Fry and the Guy. We are the mega powers of Win Column Sports. If you haven't, give us a follow on SoundCloud or iTunes, or you can just check us out on wincolumnsports.ca for all your previews, reviews, and breaking news in the world of WWE. As always, it's myself, Spencer Love, your host. Hayden Love with me as always, and we just both want to wish Titus O'Neil a happy 41st birthday. Man, time flies.
Time's fun when you're having flies. Kermit the Frog.
What a quote.
Yeah.
And what a wrestler, from his time in the Primetime Players to cutting horrible promos on Darren Young to tripping and falling both in NXT and on the main roster. We love you, Titus.
Both
Don't
times
ever
in front
change.
of a huge audience.
Yeah, absolutely. Both times
God.
in a major fashion as well. It wasn't a slight fall.
I mean, we're finished talking about the Royal Rumble, but you have to talk about the size of that crowd. I mean, even with half of the arena empty, you still had 36,000 people in there?
Yeah, it was absolutely massive.
You tripped and fell under the ring in front of 36,000 people.
That's what you're going to have to live with.
My God.
Happy birthday, Titus.
He's got a storied career, that's for sure. I could have had the opportunity to meet him. I walked past Titus O'Neil.
The line was just too long.
It was incredible.
That's the issue.
It was Alexa Bliss. It was Titus O'Neil, Nia Jax. I think that's pretty much it.
WWE, just so you know, we are still waiting for you to reschedule your show in Edmonton, Alberta that was supposed to be here on February 9th, 2018.
Would you rather go to a SmackDown show or a Raw show at this point?
Doesn't matter to me. We just want it scheduled. Vince,
SmackDown.
we haven't forgotten.
Totally SmackDown.
Now, speaking of house shows.
Can Jeff Hardy come into Canada?
No, he can't.
Damn. Can't make it. Damn.
Yeah, he simply can't.
Should go to Oklahoma for like a live show.
I'm completely okay with doing that.
Yeah.
But back to Over the Top Rope. We are here to talk about the women. Not SmackDown, not Raw, not NXT, just the women. Because even after the Greatest Royal Rumble, which unfortunately I think was a major step backwards as far as their sort of women's evolution goes, and especially after, just to go back to it, that apology from the government, that just completely made it terrible. But I think that the women's evolution is still something the WWE needs to firmly get behind because their rosters have never been more talented.
226 people on the roster, I think.
How many women do you think of that? Like, you've got to guess between Raw, SmackDown, NXT, and then just sort of the developmental or signed contracts. Like 50, 60 women?
No, I'd put it at more. I'd put it at 90, 100.
Yeah.
Not more.
No, I'd say it'd probably cap there because if they've got 250, that's 150 guys. You've got to include tag teams in that.
Yep.
But what I'm sort of thinking and where I want to start with this is, the Iconics debut or the Iconic duo, which I still will call them until you remove the second I from their name, Road Dogg.
Who else would trademark the name the Iconic duo?
I don't know, but I don't think you can trademark now, and I could be wrong on this, but I saw a tweet out there saying that you can't trademark a dual named whatever.
See, I think that you'd be able to if that applies to like dual.
Oh, I would
names.
think so as well. Like
Batman
bands
and
have
Robin.
to, all of that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know if Batman and Robin is trademarked though. Could just be Batman and Robin
I would
separately.
No, I think they would cover their bases with that.
Hey, comic book fans, we'd love to hear from you. Let us know if Batman and Robin are trademarked together or separately.
It's an interesting question.
But, so the Iconics debut, Ember Moon comes up to Raw. Both Raw and SmackDown's women's divisions are stacked. And both of them, I think at this point, we just said that the men, you've got to include tag teams. Do you think we're going to see tag team championships in the women's division sooner rather than later?
I never thought about it, but could you imagine a Ronda Rousey, Shayna Baszler tag team?
Even Sonya Deville at this point. Like,
No.
Baszler's sick in NXT.
No.
But she, and I only say this, I think Baszler's going to be a staple of NXT for a bit. She's really good on top, man. Like, I think
absolutely. I completely agree, but imagine it next year. Imagine calling out the NXT champion. Oh, that'd be crazy. Shit.
that would be incredible.
And like Sonya Deville's already in a tag team. Absolution.
Yep, Absolution, the Iconics.
Yep.
I think, would you see them defended on more than one show? Would it just be general women's tag team championships?
I think they would have to go with Raw and SmackDown tag team championships.
Yeah. I've long been of the belief that I think you should have the tag teams on one division and the women in another. Purely for the fact that then you can give them more time.
You got a
and
lot
you get
of
a
tag
lot more
teams.
fresher matchups.
You got a lot of tag teams, though.
Yep.
Put the women on SmackDown, tag teams on Raw.
Yep. Or vice versa, whichever sort of, I guess, floats your boat at the moment. But, I think if we're looking at it right now, I would prefer to see them defended across both shows. But I firmly believe you would see them on SmackDown rather than on Raw off the bat.
Yeah, but
You've just got a lot more natural pairings on SmackDown.
Yep. Iconics.
Charlotte and Becky.
Yeah.
Or Becky and Naomi.
Asuka and Charlotte or something like that.
Asuka and Becky.
Asuka and Becky. Would be
After
cool.
that, I was just going to turn on Becky. Becky's the new Sting. She's
Yeah.
just, I love you, Becky, but you just got to stop trusting people.
Heel Asuka will be cool if that comes to pass. Kairi Sane could come up. Keep Asuka babyface. You have Kairi Sane and Kana.
I just love it. There's so much you can do with SmackDown or women's tag team championships.
Who was the other
And I
Japanese?
think-
Io Shirai.
Yes.
Io Shirai. One of the two.
I just think there's so much you can do with them in WWE.
Yeah.
And I think at this point, it's needed. There's a lot of poor storylines around the women, to be quite honest with you.
Poor.
Do you remember the welcoming committee?
Absolutely. Team bad.
They reigned terror. But I think
Yeah, they were like
I can't even take myself seriously.
They were like the Gestapo of WWE at that point.
The welcoming committee came in, laid the law down, and I frankly I can't wait for their reunion. I really can't. But now they're leaderless with Natalya having moved to Raw.
And being Ronda Rousey's best friend.
That's just another one of those inexplicable. So they actually did train together. Yeah. Like they're not faking the fact that they're friends. It's just another one of those inexplicable. Hey, she's babyface now.
Mm-hmm.
She's a babyface now. Mickie James being a heel came out of nowhere.
Mickie James is the big show of turns.
Do you remember when they were teasing the Alexa Bliss babyface turn? You know what? I think it always sucks to say, but I'm always going to be wondering what would have happened if Paige had stayed healthy with Absolution.
Yeah.
Because I stand by the fact that they would have been big. You know what? Even Mandy Rose and Sonya Deville have grown on me immensely since Paige has even been out.
Yeah, Paige had 2 matches back.
I think even just one televised match.
Yeah.
I remember it was her and Sasha Banks, if I remember correctly.
Cut short, but she had an effed up spine even like 4 years ago.
Yeah, it's disappointing, man. And I would have absolutely loved to see, like they were teasing that feud with Asuka as soon as Paige came in. And I still think, would Asuka have won that match? Absolutely. But it would have been really cool to see an Asuka-Paige feud. I think that she is going to be, like, already going to be one of the better GMs in SmackDown's history. Especially if she goes down, you know, even looking at it in kayfabe, as the GM who robbed Raw blind at the Superstar Shakeup.
Mm-hmm.
Man, that was good. I'm still so excited to see what's going to happen with Samoa Joe there.
It's like, I don't know if you played it, but in SmackDown vs. Raw 2007, you could trade like 4 superstars for 1 superstar.
Yeah.
So, like, you could trade, like, the Hurricane and, like, Chavo Guerrero and Hornswoggle for, like, Triple H. And the other GM, the AI, would just think that he was getting much better of a deal. So I just stacked my roster. I had, like, John Cena, Triple H. I had everybody on there. It was awesome.
That was one of the greater wrestling games of all time.
Yeah.
I would 100% say.
Yeah.
But that's neither here nor there.
No.
I think the here is, which women would you think, if we were to have, let's just say overall right now, women's tag team championships, which pairing would you give the inaugural women's tag team championships?
Iconics would be interesting.
Mm-hmm.
If Baszler was on the main roster, in a heartbeat to her and Rousey, but that's not. That's a pipe dream. Charlotte and Becky would be a good choice. Make Charlotte a dual champion.
I think that'd be really cool.
Yeah.
I don't know, like, for me, I think any inaugural championship, they'd do some sort of tournament as far as this goes, I would have
absolutely.
to assume.
Yeah, it was like the same thing with the SmackDown Tag Championships.
Exactly. Exactly. That's what I would have to guess would happen. I think Charlotte and Becky would be really cool to see win, purely on the fact that, I think that Becky would need a big win.
Yeah.
She still needs a big win, other than, it's been a while. I think other than the SmackDown Women's Championship, there hasn't been, like, a statement victory from her in a long, long time.
No, and then even then, like, people knew that Becky was going to win.
Yes and no. I think at that point, absolutely. But wasn't Nikki Bella in that match, too?
She had the opening match with, like, Carmella or something like that.
I think that in that, no, I think it was a 6-pack challenge for the SmackDown Women's Championship when it was created, I believe. And I'm pretty sure that Nikki Bella was in that match because she may have been one of the favorites going in. But I think if they're, Becky gets a big win, I also think that it would be a great way to turn Charlotte again. I think that she is a great face. Don't get me wrong, she has far exceeded my expectations during her face.
No. I have to disagree with you there, Spencer.
Oh, I think so. I think a lot of that may be because of, like, all that stuff that went down with her father.
Mm-hmm.
She gets a lot of sympathy on that end, and I think that definitely would help her babyface run. But
she's a very subpar ripoff of her dad.
I disagree.
No, if you're
I
being
think that's
honest.
looking at a very worst case. That's looking at a very...
Like, it's a question of her, not her wrestling ability. It's the same thing as Roman Reigns. I respect her as a wrestler. I just don't like her.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
I'm all
her
for
character,
personal
at least.
taste.
I'm sure she's a pretty cool gal in real life, but, like...
I just think, to go back to it, sort of cut you off, I think she needs to be a heel. I think she's
But
much
you
better
didn't
as a
have
heel.
to- like you think about it. So however you pronounce his name, like Goyte, like Goyte.
That's somebody that I used to know.
Yeah, now he's somebody that we used to know. I haven't heard anything from him in since 2012 or 2013, whenever
Nope.
that song came out.
And for those listening, speaking of one-hit wonders, if you haven't voted in our one-hit wonder 90s bracket that I'm running on Twitter, get there now. We've got 2 days to go in the second round. Mambo number 5 is tied right up with Tub Thumping, and Steal My Sunshine and Mbop are 50-50. So if you are passionate, as we are here at Win Column Sports, about 90s one-hit wonders, head to twitter.ca or twitter.com/SpennyLove and vote in the second round of the 90s bracket. It's your civic duty. To go back to it, Hayden, Charlotte turning heel on Becky after winning, a la like Samoa Joe turning on Finn Balor in the Dusty Rhodes, I think would be really, really cool.
Mm-hmm.
But you said them right off the bat, and I think they would be perfect to win them, would be the Iconics.
Yeah.
I think that that would absolutely cement them in the upper echelon right off the bat. And they don't really have many upper echelon stars on SmackDown right now. I think Charlotte absolutely is. I think Becky absolutely is. Other than that, though, they've got...
Are you talking about female stars?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
I don't
Asuka.
really...
Asuka's
I guess,
on
yeah.
SmackDown.
Sorry, I forgot all about that.
I always
I'll be
forget
quite
that she's
honest
on
with
there.
you.
Yeah, I keep forgetting that too. I don't know why.
But I think that they would be all... Like, there you go. There's 3 people who are all... Especially with Asuka just coming over, she'll be more of a face than sort of a heel. I know she's a tweener sort of character, but...
Yeah.
I think she's more face than heel just coming to the new brand, and I think they've got to cement a couple of top heels right now.
Mm-hmm.
And the Iconics, if they were to do this with the Women's Tag Team Championships, I think that would do so. Especially if they were to take down a team like, say, Becky and Charlotte in the finals.
They think Naomi's a huge baby face.
She arguably is. She's just not my taste.
Nah, me either.
I think that may jade us a little bit on that end, but I think she's more popular than I think she is.
Yeah, she is popular. I don't care.
Yeah,
I really don't.
I don't know. I don't like to feel the glow. That's just not my thing.
Makes no sense.
It'd be really cool to see her get tied more into the Usos stuff under their gimmick.
She looks like a wacky inflatable arm waving tube man.
She's a better dancer than I am. I'll 100% give her that.
Scott Johnson's warehouse of arm waving.
Arm waving inflatable tube man.
Jesus, I used to have that down pat.
SmackDown, or I always say SmackDown. The tag team championships aside, I think... Actually, you know what? I want to get your thoughts first. What do you think the next big step is for the women? Other than sort of a tag team championship or something along those lines.
I don't know, main event of WrestleMania? Main event of SummerSlam, I think, is imminent.
I think so, too. I think between you and I, people were disappointed with Sasha and Bayley being in the Andre the Giant. Man, I'm tripping over all my words. The Women's Battle Royal at WrestleMania. And I understand why, but it's a slow build feud.
It's been a start-stop feud.
Yep. I
Like,
think
they fought in the locker room.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Sasha kicked Bayley down a bunch of times, and then they teamed together the next night on Raw.
But
Like,
they've
it's just
always
been-
they've teased the tension in all of those matches still, at least, which I like the fact they've been consistent with that.
But it's not like it's just been, like, slow cracks forming. Like, they've already beaten the piss out of each other in a locker room.
That's true. I think
Like, that would have been the blow-off, like, 3 weeks before their match. Or, like, a month. I don't know.
Maybe.
If you want to slow burn it, but...
And I think they can. You know, we haven't seen a heel Sasha on the main roster since Team BAD.
Oh, Christ.
But she's fantastic at it. I think people forget just how good she is as a heel. And I know that the rumors back there were that Bayley was going to be the one to turn.
That'd be weird.
I still do think that would be the wrong decision.
Yeah.
And that's not an indictment on Bayley.
No.
I think that it's just such a natural alignment of their characters. Sasha's such a great heel. Bayley, I still think that she has the potential to be a great babyface. She's only been on the main roster for 2 years.
Yeah, she's regaining steam.
Exactly. And I think that this Sasha feud could be something to put her over.
Man, I was about to say Sasha's only been on the roster for 2 years, but she's been on the roster since
That
since
was the year
2015.
before.
2015.
Yep. But a Sasha Bayley feud would be fantastic, and I do think that they have the potential to headline SummerSlam
This year or next year?
this year.
That'd be cool.
I think it'd be perfect.
Yeah.
It's
I agree.
at the Barclays where they had their first matches, which were fantastic. I think it's a perfect parallel. I don't see... It's one of those things that to me is just so stupidly obvious to do for WWE that I don't understand why they wouldn't.
WWE is pretty good at long-term storytelling.
When they
I guess
want
just
to.
I guess being sentimental as well.
True. They don't do sentiment poorly.
No, they're a very sentimental company.
Sometimes they don't do it tastefully, but their heart's usually in the right place.
Yeah,
And as far as that goes, like that guarantees a positive reaction for it.
absolutely.
It'd be absolutely nuts to see Sasha Bailey at the Barclays again.
Speaking
Nuts.
of, who do you think Lesnar's going to face at SummerSlam?
Oh, God.
Reigns for a third time? Braun Strowman, Bobby Lashley?
You know, it's something that I'm planning on talking about on next week's episode, so I'm
Man.
not going to give a ton away here, but I think Strowman's going to take it at SummerSlam.
Who was the sumo wrestler?
I have no idea.
Number 7.
No idea.
I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce his name.
No.
Maybe you'll face him.
Maybe. I would doubt it,
Oh
though.
my god.
But I don't think it'll headline. I
would-
think whoever he faces will be behind Sasha Bailey. Especially if you make it for the championship.
Mm-hmm.
You know? I could see Sasha taking it off Nia as a heel. I think that of any of the championships that'll have a sort of shorter run, I don't know. I don't know when Carmella's going to get it taken off her. Obviously, we don't know that. But I could see Sasha taking it off Nia before SummerSlam to carry it into SummerSlam.
Man, if you want to talk about good teams to bring in the SmackDown Women's Tag Team titles, you didn't even mention the Bellas. They're both still drafted to SmackDown.
Yeah,
They're not active, but
I could see them coming in and I don't know. I couldn't see them winning it.
they'd be cool to have for a guest appearance or something.
I think they would 100% be a guest appearance.
Mm-hmm.
But
It would be a good way to get some good press back because Nikki and Brie are both pretty present in the media.
yep, it'd absolutely.
So they win the women's
And-
tag titles, equality, rah, all that.
Hey, you get that with anybody.
No,
I
not
don't
with the
see-
name, not with the name power. That's
No, not with the name power, but I don't think that I don't know. You don't need them to win it. The Bellas by this point are like they don't need championships. They're popular. That's all there is to it.
Mm-hmm. Could say the same thing about the Hardy Boys. They still won the championships.
Yeah, but they're both still active parts of the show.
I could see them bringing back the
Both
Bellas
of them are
for
still
like
there
a
every
month.
week.
They would totally be back for like a month. then
No, I think
take
they'd
off.
come back. They'd come back as surprise opponents, win the first round, lose in the second round.
Like the
Book it.
what were their names? Damn it.
Oh,
came back for-
the
Headbangers.
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 Wow, I forgot all about that.
Yeah.
That was horrible.
Mosh and Thrash.
They were absolutely horrible.
Like you could have brought back like
That was just an odd decision. I shouldn't say they were horrible. I should just say that was so odd.
that was a thin roster. Like that was a skeleton crew. But it
Yeah,
was such
that
a
was
great
right
roster.
after the brand split.
Yep.
Like
They only had, like-
within weeks of the brand split.
Like that was there were like 5 tag teams that were active on SmackDown.
Yeah. Oh man, that was when Slater and Rhino won it.
A great feel good moment.
But I think, like, even looking back at that, if you compare that to the women's, if you were to bring in tag team championships, that's why I think at this point you would have to have them across both brands.
Yeah, but
or
if you
put
do
all of the women on one brand.
if you put it between brands, then you're just gonna stop the brand split. That's the biggest thing.
Yeah, if you put it on one brand, you have 3 teams or 4 teams.
You'd have to
That's why I say you have to bring back the Bellas.
Well, you just have to wonder which show you'd put them on. Because Raw is 3 hours, so there are a lot of women, but there are a lot of tag teams too. Like there are a ton of tag teams.
SmackDown's got a better tag team scene overall, I think.
Absolutely.
So you could put them on Raw.
But like that's like even if you just evenly split the main roster in NXT,
Even if you put them on
like
Raw,
that's 100 and like you got to split 5 hours between 110 people.
yeah.
It's pretty messed up.
Even if you put them on Raw, you can make the Raw tag or the Raw Women's Tag Team Championships a part of the Sasha Bailey story. Like, I don't know how they would do it, but I could absolutely see a situation in which, maybe Sasha says, let's put aside our differences, let's go after the women's tag team championships, and she either turns on Bayley after they fail to win it, or, like I was talking about with Charlotte and Becky, maybe Sasha turns on Bayley after they win them in like a very Samoa Joe, Finn Balor fashion. But I think that tag team championships are a huge next step as far as the women go. I think we're almost more likely to see the women headline SummerSlam than we are to see them headline WrestleMania. But I think there's a real chance that Charlotte and Rousey headline 35.
I think they're going to be one of the semi-main events, but I don't think they're going to main event this year.
There's only one main event. There's nothing I hate more than hey, it's a co-main event. Or do you remember what pay-per-view was it? The WWE tried putting on Styles, Ambrose, and Cena on. I think it was No Mercy.
Yep.
If I remember correct, where they put that on first because there was the presidential. Yeah, there was the presidential debate, but you can't call that the main event. It's not the main event if it goes on first. The main event is the last match on the card.
Yeah. No such thing as a co-main event.
I think you could see Charlotte Rousey there purely on the fact that Rousey's already a huge name value star for WWE.
Sixth most recognized name of any wrestler in history.
It's insane.
Already.
It's insane, and I don't remember where I saw that, but I saw who listed that as well. Remember you and I came across that. It was most notable WWE superstars worldwide or something like that. We'll send it out on Win Column Sports if we find it. But
who was number one?
Hulk Hogan?
Yes.
That doesn't surprise me either.
Love Hulk Hogan.
But I think that Rousey headlining WrestleMania would be huge. Absolutely huge. I think that'd be a great business decision.
It'd be very cool.
But go ahead.
I think I think it's more likely that we see it at SummerSlam this year with Bayley and Sasha. But I'm not ruling out a women's main event, but I don't know. Maybe Styles gets his main event next year.
I think they'll
whatever you want to call it this year, next year.
I think they'll do one of the two. We'll have the women main event. So if Sasha Bayley doesn't headline SummerSlam, I think that Rousey Charlotte will headline WrestleMania.
We will see what happens.
Well, I don't have the stats in front of me, but I bet that UFC buy rates probably went up when Rousey main evented. I wouldn't be surprised. Even if, I hate to use the word novelty, but even if people are buying it for the novelty of seeing the women main event or just to see Ronda Rousey versus Charlotte Flair, you can't discount the fact that Charlotte Flair, as far as the women go, is probably one of the most recognizable names on the roster, as is anyways, purely for the fact her name is Flair.
Yep.
You talk about it. You talk about the fact that she's so much like Ric Flair as far as her character or anything like that goes, but
oh my God, she's a garbage babyface. I hate it.
I don't think so.
I really
completely disagree with you there.
She's got a horrendous woo.
There.
She's got a terrible woo. Don't disagree with me.
That doesn't make her a terrible babyface.
It does.
One aspect doesn't make her a terrible babyface.
A number of aspects.
Hulk Hogan was a terrible wrestler.
Oh, you can't say that.
Does that make him a terrible babyface?
He wasn't a terrible wrestler. Have you seen some of his Japanese matches?
Have I seen some of his WWE matches?
Oh, absolutely.
Have I seen some of his TNA matches?
TNA when he was, 55 years old?
So he's still
60?
terrible.
Yeah, it's
still terrible.
When things get old, they get terrible.
That's what old people do, Hayden.
They get terrible. I love how we complete each other's
sandwiches.
Yes.
But I don't know. I definitely think you're going to see the women headline one of those pay-per-views. And not only do I think you're going to see it, but I think it's the completely correct decision.
Yeah, and especially in the wake of the apology. That's going to get some pretty bad press.
Absolutely.
And that's the first event in a 10-year agreement. It's nuts, man.
Yeah, and I don't know what you do. I don't know. If you're WWE, I don't know how you respond to that.
I think it's one of those things that you just ignore.
You try and brush it under the rug, but it's going to be brought up next year. If people are not willing to get upset about Fabulous Moolah, as they should be, they're going to get upset next year when this happens, or potentially even in November when the next event is rumored to happen. But Hayden, I think that about does it for you and I here on this week's edition of Over the Top Rope. So thank you once again for joining me as co-host.
Thanks for having me, Spencer.
It's always appreciated. I love talking wrestling. I love talking wrestling with you. And I love talking wrestling with you, our listeners. So don't forget to tweet us at Win Column Sports. You You can find us at WC Sports CA or at wincolumnsports.ca on the old internet machine, where not only can you find previews, reviews, and breaking news from around the world of WWE, but you can also listen to the rest of the Win Column Sports Network, including Fry and the Guy and this week's upcoming interview with Sammy Guevara. So check that out on wincolumnsports.ca. On the next edition of Over the Top Rope, Hayden and I are going to be joined by PWA superstar Colton Kelly, which we're absolutely stoked for. You can find him on Twitter as well, along with the rest of the PWA. Just check everything out, guys. Wrestling is awesome. There's so much to find. Why not start with the great stuff here in Alberta? Hayden, once again, thank you for joining me on Over the Top Rope. As always, I'm your host, Spencer Love, and thanks for joining us here on Win Column Sports.